Welcome to the next installment of the 2006-2007 Subaltern Voices speaker series. My name is Melinda Smith, and I am a member of the Department of Social Science coordinating the series. I'd like to welcome you to this presentation, seminar, which will be led by Dr. Rita Dhamoon, who is our Grant Notley Memorial Postdoctoral Fellow in the Department. Before I introduce Rita, I wanted to make a few remarks about the series, but also about the kinds of themes that we're trying to engage within the Subaltern Voices series. And really, the aim is to try and to think and talk and theorize about issues and perspectives that are, in my view, inadequately explored within disciplines, in particular within political science. And today, we are looking at the issue of themes related to multiculturalism and racialization. And I wanted to make a few remarks about that before I turn the floor over to Dr. Dhamoon. And this, and basically about the kind of the broader context, I think, that have kind of struck me about these issues. And this past summer, for example, when Britain struck its commission to review its multicultural policy, it was followed by some rather reactionary remarks made both by Prime Minister Tony Blair and House Leader Jack Straw on multiculturalism. And they have been, and they took as their target the veil worn by Muslim women. These remarks fueled Britain's anxiety about whether multiculturalism actually works. Straw, in particular, has captured and reflects, I think, this anxiety, his remarks about refusing to talk to Muslim women unless and until they remove their veils and submit themselves to the white veil gaze. Arguably, both Straw and Blair also played into old colonial notions of barbarism and civilization discourse, which has been the subject of earlier seminars within the series. One of the tropes of this, I think, is the idea that European men rescuing third world women from their primitive men. In the Netherlands, the Dutch, who prided themselves on kind of liberal notions of tolerance, if not respect, have rescinded multiculturalism as official state policy. The Dutch have retreated from liberal multiculturalism to adopting positions previously associated with a small right-wing fringe. The new or return to old orthodoxy is one of forced assimilation. The Dutch anxiety, like the British, it seems, is the fear of the other, particularly the impact of the country's 1 million Muslims on this idea of Dutch culture, the code, I think, for white society and its anxieties for racial and cultural heterogeneity. The Dutch have shifted from their 1980s discourse of liberal tolerance, emancipation, regarding disadvantage, to an anxious discourse about threats to social cohesion and a call for the death of multiculturalism. Like the British, they're reviewing the option of banning the veil in public because Muslim women who wear it may pose a threat to national security. Similarly, in Canada, the federal government, under Prime Minister Stephen Harper, is reviewing legislation on dual and multiple citizenship following the Israeli-Hezbollah war of this past summer, during which the government was forced into the paradoxical position of, on the one hand, supporting a war that created refugees and internally displaced persons, and at the same time put Canadian lives at risk and having to rescue Canadians from harm's way. In Canada, also were calls to retreat from multiculturalism, and the Globe and Mail and other national media began running stories about racialized immigrants, communities that were segregated. We previously talked about Little Italy, Little India, Little Chinatown. Now they were talked about as ethnic enclaves of segregated immigrants. What fascinated me about these conversations and the work of, I think, Dr. Dhamoon is the extent to which conversations on multiculturalism and identity difference, two things fascinate me, I should say. One is the complexity of conceptions of multiculturalism and the fear of difference it evokes, leading for a desire even among critical scholars for called universalism. The The second thing that fascinates me is the anxieties expressed in terms of liberal multiculturalism. It's the thundering silence related to issues of race and processes of racialization. I think Michelle Wallace's note that by now I suppose everyone knows from the right, left, and the middle that multiculturalism is not the promised land. Collectively, people of color aren't necessarily empowered by multiculturalism. In this riotous and sometimes chaotic body of work on multiculturalism, racialization, and gender, Dr. Dhamoon's work is a breath of fresh air. I think she's among a handful of the most exciting feminist and anti-colonial intellectuals doing work on multiculturalism, and I include her among scholars such as Ray Chow, Gayatri Spivak, Pamela Auntie Apia, and of course our own colleague with whom she works, Dr. Yasmin Abdul-Labin. Dr. Dhamoon currently is the Grant Lotley Memorial Postdoctoral Fellow, as I said. She holds a PhD from the UBC, an MA from the University of Essex, and a BA from the University of Loughborough in the UK. Among her recent publications is an article in the September 2006 International Journal Constellation on shifting from culture to cultural, critical theorizing of identity difference politics, and a co-edited book, which is hot off the press, by Routledge, entitled Sexual Justice, Cultural Justice. Dr. Dhamoon's work pushes multiculturalism beyond the liberal preoccupation with recognition, diversity, or individual choices in order to foreground the principle of accountability, particularly accountability for meaning-making, which produces significations of gender racialization. In my view, her work illustrates the ways in which multiculturalism, particularly as it relates to racialized women, produces an infringement of Levinas, the illusion of justice by claiming to value unique others while retaining the self and all-consuming self-aware I, but it's different because of its uniqueness, not unique because of its difference. In this seminar, Dr. Dhamoon's topic is theorizing accountability, racialized women in contemporary political theory, and she problematizes the ways in which liberal multiculturalist theorists attempt to manage or contain those marked as other and the questions of culture. Will you please join me in welcoming to the podium Dr. Rita Dhamoon.
Well, thank you, Dr. Smith, for a very generous introduction. I'd also like to thank Nisha Nath for her organizational skills in the series itself. I think the series that Dr. Smith has organized here is critically important as a way to reflect in a focused way on the discipline of political science. In particular, one of the goals of the series that she's identified is to explore how disciplines such as political science take up or fail to take up questions of race and racialization, preferring instead to ally these with concepts such as ethnicity and culture, or to treat aspects of racialization and gender as add-ons. So one of the aims of the series that she's identified is to make the evasions, the occlusions, and the silences of questions of race and gender more visible. And it's precisely this that I'm going to try and do in the next 45 minutes or so. So when reflecting on ways of racing and gendering the discipline, I consider the burgeoning literature in contemporary political theory and what has now become known as identity difference politics, or the politics of identity. In particular, I take as my point of departure the ways in which processes of gendered racialization, and by extension the identities of women of color and indigenous women, are erased in liberal multicultural versions of identity difference politics. So the first thing I'm going to do is examine the ways in which the liberal multicultural discourse itself erases the identities of different racialized women. To address this erasure, I'm going to argue that there are a number of insights to be drawn from the body of post-colonial and anti-racist, feminist and womanist-based work that has emerged under the umbrella of intersectionality. While the terminology of intersectionality itself doesn't fully capture the ways in which modes of identification are integral to each other, this approach does sharpen a focus on the interactions between aspects of identity, so race, class, gender aspects, as well as various forms of interrelated modes of oppression, such as racialization, patriarchy, and heteronormativity. So the second thing I'm going to do is examine some of the critical insights that feminists have brought forward in terms of intersectionalizing the study of identity difference politics within the field of contemporary political theory. My main argument is that while the analysis of these interactions expands and complicates the study of identity and difference politics in ways that liberal multiculturalism closes off, the lesson to be learned from critical feminists is not that the interactions in and of themselves are politically most salient. Rather, it's that these interactions tell us something about modes of domination. So I'm going to build on and take further critical feminist insights, especially to confront domination through a theory of accountability. So this notion of accountability is one that explains different matrices of domination and offers us a form of political analysis. To illustrate the value of accountability, I'm going to speak to some examples related to